Hello, friends and colleagues. Hope you are all safe. And today's discussion will be about a proper transfusion medicine topic regarding specialized blood components. Starting with a little bit of history, this was the animated picture of the first ever transfusion that was made, and the apparatus which they used for transfusion was impeller and gravitator. They used the simple concept of gravity of blood flowing from a higher altitude to a lower altitude, which they uh, helped the movement with something called as the gravitator. This was a gross technique initially, and then they started experimenting about direct venous to arterial anastomosis, and in this they found that there were some fluid overload reactions in the recipients, and some kind of circulatory shock in donors. And then they started to find some other technique with anticoagulant so that they can store the blood for some later use. Then came the use of glass bottles, which eventually has modulated into the plastic form of blood bags, which we are using it nowadays. And the definition of blood is being defined under drugs, section 2B of Drugs and Cosmetics Act in India, and it says that blood is a whole blood component that is being drawn from a donor and mixed with an anticoagulant. And component is something which they mention as a drug that is being prepared, obtained, derived or separated from a unit of blood drawn from a donor. Blood product is something which is manufactured from pooled plasma of blood by fractionation drawn from donors. And the changing era in which initially we were using only whole blood, and then started using some components like packed RBCs, platelets, FFP, cryoprecipitate, and now we have ended up and are still exploring the use of different other combined or recombinant blood products like leukoreduced RBCs, platelets, irradiated products, washed RBCs, volume reduced platelets, single donor platelets, granulocyte apheresis, and some plasma derivatives. And the rational use in our field includes the use of right product in right dose at right time with right indications. And coming on to the whole blood, this is being used for in conditions where we need an increase in auto carrying capacity of the patient and some kind of volume expansion. The product which we are using should ideally have a hemoglobin of 12 gram percentage and HCT of around 35 to 45 percentage. And the drawbacks of this product is that there is no functional product platelets and no labile coagulation factors. The indications are exchange transfusion, preferably we use O negative PRBCs being reconstituted with AB plasma, and then we use whole blood in cases of massive transfusions and in case of autologous units. And the component preparation can be grossly divided into Buffy-Coat method and PRP method. In Buffy-Coat method, initially we give a centrifugation of 3410 rpm for 10 minutes, and then using an automatic component extractor or a manual extractor, whichever is available in the institute. We separate them into PRBCs, FFP, which are being cut and separated for storage, and then we have a bag with platelet and Buffy-Coat, which after being hung for a time being of 1.5 hours, then being centrifuged again at 900 rpm for 10 minutes, and then we have Buffy-Coat in separate bag and platelet in separate bag, and this Buffy-Coat is being discarded. In PRP method, after the first centrifugation of 1600 rpm for 10 minutes, we separate the PRBC and PRP, And this PRP is the platelet rich plasma. It is being again centrifuged, that is given hard spin at 3000 rpm for 10 minutes, and then using extractor we separate VFFP and platelet separately. Coming on to the PRBC's part, the PRPC, as such the product should be prepared within 8 hours of collection, and the volume should be approximately between 160 to 275 ml depending upon the volume of the whole blood being collected. And any PRBC should contain minimal residual plasma to reduce the after transfusion reactions in the patient. And if it is stored with CPDA, then the half-life is 21 days. If it is CPDA 1, it is 35 days, and if it is stored with SAGM, it is 42 days. And PRBC is being generally used for in conditions where we need increased red cell mass and oxygen carrying capacity, and used with good result in patients at risk of cardiac failure due to anemia, for whom we cannot give a whole blood transfusion. And the indication grossly is acute blood loss of more than 30 to 40% blood volume, anticipated surgical blood loss of around more than 1 liter, stable patients with proper volume maintenance, for having HB less than 7 gram, and if the patient is elderly or with some cardiovascular or pulmonary disease, then we should maintain a HB of around 8 to 9 gram per deciliter. And those for having a decreased red cell survival like hemolytic anemia, thalassemia, and those who are having decreased bone marrow production like plastic anemia, and those having malignancies. And now we'll look upon to some of the modified PRBC components like leukoreduced. In leukoreduced product, there should be a concentration of WBC around less than 5 into 10 to the power 6 WBCs per unit, and this unit should at least maintain a 85% of original red cell mass after leukodepletion. Leukodepletion can be done pre-storage and post-storage. In pre-storage, we have an extra advantage that we can prevent the febrile reactions which are due to the biological response modifiers like interleukin 1, interleukin 6, and TNF alpha. And there are 3 methods of pre-storage leukoreduction, that is inline filter with whole blood which is being filtered via gravity, and then we have plasma which is being separated from whole blood, and the PRBC only is passed via the inline filter. And in these 2 techniques, the platelet will also be trapped, and hence we cannot prepare any platelet from those. And we have another thing called as leukocyte reduction filter, which is being docked with PRBC, and only the PRBC product will be allowed to flow through the filter. This is the ideal method which is being used in many of the institutes. And then we have post-storage leukodepletion, which is being done prior to the issue or bedside, and it can be done using both centrifugation or a separate filter which is being used bedside. And the indication includes those who are having repeated transfusion, those who are having 2 or more febrile transfusion reactions, and to prevent this can and providing leukoreduced product can prevent the febrile non-hemolytic transfusion reactions and transfusion related acute lung injury. Also transfusion related viral transmission like EBV and HTLV can be prevented, but however this product does not prevent any transfusion associated graft versus host disease or reaction. And most common cause of filter failure is sickle cell trait. And we have also leukoreduced platelets, in which the studies show that 95% of the leukoreduced platelets have less than 8.3 into 10 to the power 5 WBCs, and 75% of them have more than or equal to 5.5 into 10 to the power 10 platelets, and 90% of them maintain a pH of more than or equal to 6.2 at the end of the allowable storage period. To measure the leukodepletion, we have 2 methods like flow cytometry and Nagot hemocytometry. Coming on to the irradiated RBCs, here we use gamma rays from cesium-137 or cobalt-60, or X-rays from radiotherapy, linear accelerators, or standalone units. And regarding the dose, the mid plane of the container should receive at least 25 gray radiation, and maximum till 50 gray radiation, and the minimum dosage to at least all portion of the product should be 15 gray. And post radiation expiry date is 28 days or original expiry date, whichever is earlier. The indication is the same as leukodepletion, like in immunocompromised or bone marrow or stem cell transplant patients, or in intrauterine transfusion or blood recipients from relatives. The drawback is that the percentage recovery after transfusion is very less, and the efflux of potassium from RBC leads to some kind of cardiac drawbacks in patients. Washed RBCs, it is given in patients with FNHTR or urticarial reactions, or those who developed antibodies to plasma proteins, or those patients who are deficient in IgA, and also it can be given in paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria sensitive to complement. We have something called as frozen deglycerized RBCs, in which we can increase the storage of RBCs even up to 10 years. This may be useful in cases of some rare phenotypes or in cases of autologous use. In this product, it will be already leukodepleted, and the platelet and plasma will also be reduced due to the washing process in this. The cryoprotectors which are being used are penetrating or non-penetrating. Penetrating like glycerol, and non-penetrating like HES. Penetrating, they have a kind of osmotic force which prevents the water from migrating out of the cell and hence prevents dehydration of the RBCs. Non-penetrating substances, they provide a shell-like substance outside the RBC, thus protecting it from dehydration. There are two procedures, like high glycerol method or low glycerol method. High glycerol method is the most commonly used one, and in this there is a 40% weight per volume used, and in the other thing it is 20%. And some of the steps in freezing the red cells using high glycerol concentration is being shown in this. This has been taken from the standard textbook of transfusion medicine, that is Hammening. And the QC procedure for this is that the percentage recovery has a formula, like weight of the deglycerized RBC into HCT of that into 100 divided by weight of the RBC in gram into HCT of the liquid RBC. And in any product, there should be only less than 1% residual glycerol, which has to be checked before issuing each unit. And the osmolality should not exceed 420 milliosmoles. And we should perform simulated transfusions and check for hemolysis, and post deglycerization, ABO and RH typing and DCT should be done before issuing. And we will be seeing the remaining of this discussion in the part 2 video, since it is a very long video. Thank you.